Hey everyone, Nubkeks here. Excuse the infinite regress or relapse. There we go. Hopefully that will fix things out. Adjusting to a one screen PC at the moment instead of two screens. It's a bit chaotic, but hey, what can you do? In today's video, I want to give you my opinion on what's actually the biggest change coming in the 2018 gameplay update. But it's the one that is receiving probably the least attention. It's kind of, in some ways, the least, I don't know, dramatic, scandalous, as opposed to the support nerfs and the stealth rework and performance-based matchmaking. These much more harder hitting issues in some ways. But this one I think is actually a bigger deal. And I'm going to kind of cover why and some of the things that you'll want to be looking out for and thinking about once this update comes live. Also, as you'll see, it's the kind of thing that will not be properly tested on the PTR, where you've got, there's no real matchmaking, right? It's just kind of chaos. It's the kind of thing that won't be tested properly. What is that thing? Well, it is, of course, the changes to, well, two aspects. Number one, the timings on the different battlegrounds in terms of map objectives. And then tying into number two, which is the changes to mercenary camps. So we also have changes to the timings on the mercenary camps as well as part of this. But then also the mercenary camps being different in function in the new game. So to give you a brief overcap, I actually found a good website called Nexus Master. This is Blackheart's Bay. So for example, on live servers, hopefully you guys can see this, my webcam doesn't cover it. I'll read it all out for you anyway in case you can't see everything. But on Blackheart's Bay today, the first chests, they spawn at 50 seconds into the game. Then they respawn at a very time. It's random. It can be anywhere between 2.5 to 3.25 minutes after both of the chests are destroyed, right? So there's no way to guarantee. There's no warning, right? So there's no way that you can... It's very difficult to actually set up around the chests around when they're going to respawn, because you could have set up almost a minute too early and just be kind of milling around with nothing to do for a minute. As you'll know, when people play Blackheart's Bay, for the vast majority of people, the vast majority of players, it's just kind of like the chests pop up and you go, oh, reactively, oh, I suppose we go get the chests because they're up now. There's no proactive planning. There's no strategy around that. It's kind of just luck, to be honest, because no one keeps track of the timer and it's random. So Blackheart himself will spawn at 1 minute 15, and Cannonball Attack. That's not too important. In terms of the mercenary camps, you can see down here. So the doubloon camps will spawn in 1 minute 30. The siege camp spawns at 2 minutes. The bruiser camp at 2:30, and the boss at 3 minutes. So again, a very typical strategy you'll have on Blackheart's Bay is you could have a jungling hero, let's say in Illidan. So coming up to 1 minute 30, you go, all right, Illidan, you head off. Illidan reaches the doubloon camp at 1 minute 30. He clears that out. He moves straight onto the siege camp at 2 minutes. So number one, you fight over the chests in 50 seconds. Big fight over the chests. Then everything sort of resets, everything calms down. Maybe you go and you turn in some coins to Blackheart at 1:15. Then Illidan goes off at 1 minute 30, he does the doubloon camp. Then he does the siege camp. Then he runs up and he does the bruiser camp. And then you go and you fight over the turn-in point again, right? Because you've got a whole bunch of coins. You've got merc camps pushing the lanes. So you go, hey, we want to turn in these coins. If the enemy team comes to stop us, they've got merc camps pushing. If they send heroes to stop the merc camps, they can't stop our turn-in. That's kind of the rhythm of the map. I don't know if people always play to that, but that kind of is it. That's all changing. And this is just one example of how the meta will quite radically change in the early game on a lot of these maps. So number one, for example, on Blackheart's Bay, the first objective is going to activate 90 seconds into the match. So it'll be 90 seconds into Blackheart's Bay. You're going to see the first chest. And there'll be a 30-second warning going, hey guys, 1 minute into the game, it goes, boom, guys, chest spawning right here, right at these points in 30 seconds. You better get ready. So it's much more proactive gameplay. The chest will consistently spawn 3 minutes after the final chest has been captured. And I think there'll probably be a 30-second warning on the respawn as well for when they're coming up. So that's a big, big change. I'm not sure when Blackheart himself opens up, actually. It doesn't make that clear. However, we also have, if I go down here, mercenary camps. Here we go. This is a huge, huge deal, okay? Mercenary camps now spawn 60 seconds after the game begins. All right. So as opposed to the old one where it's 50 seconds chest, 1 minute 30 doubloon, 2 minutes siege, 2:30 bruiser camp, then maybe go fight over the turn-in. Instead, it's going to be, there's no chest. There's nothing to fight over until 1 minute, then the doubloon camp, the siege camp, and the bruiser camp. I think presumably the boss camp. I don't know. I didn't actually remember to check that, but certainly I think the doubloon camp, the siege camp, and the bruiser camp all activate at the same time 1 minute into the map, and there's no chests for 1 minute 30. So Blackheart's Bay, the new strategy is probably going to be go take one, maybe multiple of these camps, and then have the camps perhaps split pushing when we go to fight the chests. Or, totally new strategy as well, perhaps we're actually going to prioritize pushing with the mercenary camps instead of taking the chests. Why might we do that? Because the mercenary camps, the way they work is changing radically. If we look at the knight camp, in particular the bruiser camp, which again is on Blackheart's Bay, it's spawning at 1 minute now instead of 3 minutes in. That's a huge change. Or is it, what was it, 3 minutes? No, sorry, 2 minutes 30, but that's a huge change either way. But now, the wizard knight, when he's in the lane, will give all nearby allies, that includes minions, includes all the other mercenaries, and the heroes in that lane, 30 spell armor. Right? So long as he's alive. Which means that it's way more difficult to clear those waves. You can imagine that Kael'thas Flame Strike, which would normally decimate a minion wave, not going to do that much damage anymore. 30% of that damage is just cut straight off. Same thing with like Vala multi-shots. Anything like that. You know, Gul'dan wave clear, 30% off of that. So suddenly, pushes with the wizard knight become much more difficult for heroes to clear out, and also gives heroes protection when they're under that. So again, it makes pushing with that bruiser camp much more significant. So before, as you play it on the live game now, you use the knight camp to split push. That's the main use for it. You grab it, it's split pushing, it absorbs loads of shots, it absorbs loads of damage from the minion waves, so it'll just push in really hard. So you have to send heroes to go stop that knight camp, but you don't really want to push with it because it doesn't add that much more value. And then the enemy team can just come and clear them out with AoE while also damaging you. That's going to be totally different now. You're going to be pushing. There's much more emphasis on actually pushing with the knight camp because you got this big spell armor aura, which is really cool. Also, interestingly, they'll have a 15 spell armor aura while you're trying to take the camp, so it'll be a bit more difficult for heroes that rely on ability damage. You might need to send more people. Siege camps, again, this is a big change here, which will tie into this as well. The siege camp, you can now dodge all of their attacks, even when you're taking it as a mercenary camp, right? So when you're fighting the merc camp, if you do it well, you can, in theory, take the siege giant camp now without taking any damage at all, because you can sidestep all of their attacks because it's going to be telegraphed. So yeah, that's gonna be a really big deal too, because that means you could send maybe a couple of people. You know, I don't know how you do it, but this opens up a lot of opportunity on Blackheart's Bay, doesn't it? Like, which camp do we take? Or do we take both of them? Do we push with them? Do we take the chests? This opens up a whole world of opportunity. And the same thing is going to happen on loads of different maps, because the timings on all of these maps are changing. And all of the merc camps are spawning 60 seconds after the game begins. So we've got these early maps, right? I actually gave you an example of the earliest map. Blackheart's Bay, same thing with Braxis and Dragonshire, which is the first objective activates 90 seconds into the match. On other battlegrounds, so Battlefield of Eternity, this is a huge change, I'll come back to that. Cursed Hollow, also big change. Garden of Terror, Haunted Mines, Infernal Shrine, Sky Temple, Towers of Doom, Warhead Junction. All of these maps, the first objective now activates 3 minutes into the match. 3 minutes into the match. So you could already have multiple mercenary camp plays at that point in the game. I say BOE is a particularly large change, because if we look at BOE now, I mean, the first Immortal spawns at 1 minute 45. So that's a massive change. I don't like this change personally, because it's a big map. It's very isolated. I think this is a bad one, because you're going to have a really boring laning phase, I would think. Though the one interesting thing about it, of course, is that the bruiser camps on Battlefield of Eternity are asymmetrical, as in the one on the right pushes top, the one on the left pushes bottom. I might be mirrored and it might go wrong, right? For you guys watching me gesture that, but that could be interesting, because it might actually have, maybe it will have an interesting effect, because let's say the standard way to play Battlefield of Eternity now is you've got like a solo top lane, so the two individuals go up top, and then you've got a 4-man down bottom. Well, that will mean different things for the different teams, because the bruiser camps push different ways, and that's actually going to be very important for the early game. very important for the early game. And taking that bruiser camp is going to be really important. Or fighting over those neutral camps, which spawn 1 minute in, because you're going to have 3 minutes. There's going to be 2 minutes there where you've got all these merc camps to take and push with before that objective is there. That's a really big change. But same thing with all these maps. Like Cursed Hollow had very specific merc camp timings to show you here. So the first tribute would spawn between 2:25 and 3:05. Crucially, the siege camp starts at 2 minutes. So like looking at the map, let's say your blue side, you go take that siege camp, it would start pushing down the lane. If the first tribute spawned, you know, at 2 minutes 30 or something, your siege camp would be pushing that lane as it spawned. If the tribute spawned down here, enemy team's in a really rough spot, right? Because if they leave someone to defend the siege camp, they're going to lose the tribute. If they send everyone to fight the tribute, that siege camp's going to do loads of damage. So there was kind of a bit of luck in terms of how that was played. But still, you know, yeah, this is huge. This is a huge deal. It's really going to change radically how you play like the first like 3, 4, 5 minutes of the game. And unlike, you know, it's not like the between minute 20 and minute 25 of a game, which you won't get to often. You're going to get to this part of the game. The first 5 minutes of the game are always in the game. It never ends before then. So this change will be in every single game you play. Or it's not like the stealth rework, which will again only be in some games. This will be in every single game. It will affect every single map. And this is what we need to start thinking about moving forward is, okay, with these new timings, how do we use these merc camps? Let's take a look at every single map. How are we going to use this map differently? What are we going to do? Do we even need to pick different heroes so that we've got a bit more of a snowball? So then when it hits that you know, the new when it hits the new 3 minute mark, when we hit the new 3 minute mark and objectives start spawning, will we have a talent tier advantage at that point? Or will we make sure we're at least equal in talent tier with the enemy team? Can we destroy the fort that's nearest to the objective, right? So let's say Infernal Shrines, right? It's got a 30-second warning. Yeah, the minimap will now show the next objective spawn the following battlegrounds. So let's say Infernal Shrines. First shrine indicator appears 30 seconds after the game begins. Okay, so 30 seconds into the game, you've got from 30 seconds in to 3 minutes, so you've got 2.5 minutes on Infernal Shrines where you go. The next shrine is going to be in the top lane. How do we play around this? Do we want to take a bruiser camp and try push in top really hard, try destroy maybe the enemy's well, maybe their towers, maybe their well, maybe even the fort before that first shrine activates, so we have a large advantage and can snowball off of that? These are big decisions that need to be made, so I just wanted to draw some attention to that, because I've seen, like, no one's talking about this really, that I've seen anyway. Very few people are talking about this, but this is, I think, probably going to be the biggest change that will affect every single one of your games and will radically differentiate the strategies. So yeah, there you go, guys. Let me know what you think, or have you worked out any strategies that you're going to implement when this comes live? Again, you can imagine, as I said near the start, kind of difficult to test this on PTOR where people are just doing random things. There's none of that like macro strategy really. But yeah, anyway, I'll be curious to see how it goes. Thank you for watching. Back to Infinite Keks. Raw. Receding into the background. I'll see you all next time. Bye bye.